reception. It was kind of low key, but work that my brother-in-law prepared.
Nice.
You're waiting for Sam.
You can start with that.
Okay.
Perfect.
It's the same facility.
Awesome.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First up, additions to and approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Next item is the visitors to be heard. If there's someone that's here for a visitor, please come up to the podium. All right, seeing that there is none. Moving on to the next agenda item, public hearings. So we're opening up for a public hearing. And the first item is the ordinance 650 Creekside Edition rezoning. Nate, do you have some information on that?
I do. Mayor and Council, this public hearing is for a rezone application for the Creekside Edition to go from single-family residential to multifamily residential. The application was received by the city from the current owner of the property, Lennox Area Development Corporation. The application was heard by the Planning Commission at a public hearing on March 28th with no one speaking in opposition. The ordinance scheduled for a public hearing tonight per our requirements. The property is at the corner of West 4th, which is the city's right-of-way, and South Cleveland Street, like Lincoln County right-of-way. Property was previously platted for several properties but did not develop. LADC replatted the parcel into one larger parcel for future development. As you may recall, the comprehensive plan is a guiding document we use when evaluating merit of zoning applications. Our future land use map identifies the property for future residential development, which does not distinguish between single-family or multifamily. The proposed zone is consistent with the intent of the land use map and the comprehensive plan. The application also supports several goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, including preparing public infrastructure for expansion, encouraging new residential and commercial growth within our city limits, supporting efforts to acquire properties for redevelopment, and maintaining strict compliance with zoning best practices around compatible and complementary uses. In terms of practical impact of the ordinance, the multifamily district is slightly more dense than a single-family district, though many of the uses stay the same. Single-family homes are still encouraged in the multifamily district. In fact, most of the Countryside Edition is zoned for multifamily. But there are more possibilities for more dense uses such as townhomes, twin homes, duplexes, etc. The city does not play a formal role in determining the eventual buildings placed on the property so long as it's applied for under a permitted use under our ordinances. I recommend a motion to approve the first reading. I know Ryan Solberg from LADC is here tonight to speak in favor of the action. I don't know if anyone is here to speak in opposition. I recommend you open the public hearing for comment.
All right, we'll open up the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that would like to give input regarding this matter?
Steve. All right. Good evening, Council. Ryan Solberg with Lennox Area Development Corporation. Prepared a short presentation for you all tonight just to kind of talk about our rezoning application. I believe Nate might have included it in your packet. It's about a 4-slide. I did it over PowerPoint, but we'll hit some of the highlights. So, kind of an overview of the property. Lennox Area Development Corporation acquired the Creekside Edition a little over a year ago. At the time, it was platted for 7 single-family lots, all be along Cleveland Avenue. Utilities were not stubbed to the lots. They're right there at the corner of 4th and Cleveland with the sewer line kind of going cattywampus across the property. LADC really took an interest in this property for a few key reasons. One being that kind of its location there, once it's developed and it's made accessible for sewer and water, it does open up future acreages to the west and east for development. On top of that, just some of the unique challenges with this property, such as the 7 single-family lots, kind of the odd shape, that sewer line going across, just kind of made it something unique that we felt that it was the responsibility of a development corporation to try to facilitate the private market and finding a development solution. And on top of that, in terms of development, it's a great location. If you go out there on the west side of town, it's a really nice, quiet spot, looking over some farmland and Long Creek. Right there where the railroad easement goes, kind of on the southeast side of the property, is a future trailhead, I believe, for walking trail. And then across the street, you have a park as well. So a lot of things that you like in residential development. So in our first go around, when we first had a concept design drawn up by Stockwell Engineers, which you can also see on that slide, they put together a concept with 2 cul-de-sacs, which would have been 12 single-family lots, which ranged in size, but I'd say the average size was probably somewhere a little over a quarter acre. Total construction cost estimates at that time, so this would have been 18 months ago, I want to say it was about like 1.2, 1.4 million. So when you break that down, you're looking at a cost of about $60,000 per lot, if not greater. And going into the next slide, when we're starting to look at the reasons for the rezoning, if you're selling quarter-acre lots for $60,000 a lot, you're probably not going to be competitive. So really, there's sort of a fourfold reason for the rezone. First is that the top end of the housing market, folks will be looking at buying a $60,000 plus lot. The LADC felt was already being addressed by the countryside subdivision. If you look at the map there's about 30 lots along McCormick, which is the furthest west street, which are all close to about a half acre in size. So in order to get that cost down, we're going to be looking at a little bit more density. The second thing that we noticed was a really strong demand for what's known as single-family attached dwellings. So these would be things like twin homes, triplexes, quadplexes, townhomes. So the 2019 housing study, which I think a lot has changed in the local housing market since 2019, recommended the construction of about 4 twin homes per year, and about 3 to 4 of what they termed affordable homes, which I assume meant kind of that first-time home buyer. So when you're looking at the first-time home buyer, and I think there's some bankers within the room with us tonight, but I want to say that the first-time home buyer price is probably somewhere in that $350,000 range, right? When you're already looking at a $60,000 lot, you're not leaving a lot of wiggle room there. The other thing that we really noticed in the community was there's a very strong demand for rental housing. So in the 2019 housing study, they recommended the construction of 38 market rate units and 14 senior independent units, which would be like the slab on grade, single level, right, walk in, walk out, no basement, no steps. To my knowledge, no units have been constructed in Lennox since 2019. So that demand, the number of units that could probably come into the market is probably even greater now than it was in 2019. This is not factoring in that there are probably some previously owner-occupied homes that have been converted now into rentals. But in terms of newer rentals, right, it's just not something we're seeing. We're also seeing a pretty great demand for workforce housing. When having conversations with our major employers in town, whether that's a school district, Wilson Trailer, or Sioux Steel, workforce is something that pretty consistently comes up. And when you're talking about workforce, you're really talking about housing. If folks are making somewhere between $17 to $25 an hour, you need to be able to have a place that they can afford to live. Right now, I know Sioux Steel is putting some homes out in Long Creek Park as a way to try to incentivize their workforce to live a little bit closer to the workplace. They also, at one point, were busing 2 shifts down here, and Wilson Trailer is also having some trouble as well. So we thought that this kind of property might also present an opportunity to address that. And then really the final thing, and I think Nate hit this on the head when he kind of gave his first overview, is just the greater flexibility for home builders and developers. R2 zoning still does allow for single family housing, it's just different setbacks and size requirements for the lots, so giving more flexibility in how you end up doing those designs. So kind of going for what the LADC's vision is for the property, I think what we really see is something like Pathways, which is over on the east side of town, just south of the Lennox Auto Body Repair Shop. We think that the location is very similar for this type of development. It's somewhat secluded, it's in a quiet spot of town, it kind of blends in with the rest of the neighborhood really well. And we know that this is kind of a spot in the market that's a real sweet spot for rural communities like Lennox. Also looking at over on East Boynton, when you're looking just west of Casey's, there's I think it's 2 sets of twin homes there that have always been, I mean, you have like 18-month waiting lists to get on. And then also up in Countryside currently, there's some twin homes for sale. So we're seeing proof of concept here, and when we've been having conversations with developers, and we've had one developer make a formal proposal, the conversation is almost always centered on this sort of the single-family attached concept. So I'll open it up to any questions you might have. I also kind of put together, just for kind of, to give you guys a sense of what the market's looking like, another article from the Lennox Independent 2022 talking about difficulties in folks finding rental housing. And also just a quick scan of the latest in Lennox and the Lennox rants and raves pages of everyone who was having difficulty finding rental housing in the community. You know, right now, if you do a Google search for rentals in Lennox, it brings you to T, or it brings you to Harrisburg. It's almost impossible to find units right here in town. We even have a comment in there from our new mayor from 2023 looking for a friend who's looking for a 4-bedroom, so I gotta that. But I think it's always important in these situations, you know, when we're having these hearings, you know, I speak on behalf of the LADC. I think a lot of the neighbors who take an interest in what their neighborhood's going to look like, obviously, they get involved, but I think, you know, there's also constituencies out there that will be impacted by something like this, and I think it's important to know that someone's advocating for their interests as well, so I'll just pass these around. And if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to field them.
Did this developer have any kind of layout that he was looking at?
It was a 2-access point, kind of a, I would call it like a U shape, horseshoe shape, and it was about, I think it was 15, it'd be 15 lots for duplexes is what they were thinking.
Any other questions for Ryan, comments?
Are you looking at an apartment complex possibly?
I think the board has a very strong vision for this property. Apartments, I think a lot of board members do not feel that it fits in with the character of the neighborhood. It would probably stick out right now, given the development of some of the surrounding properties. I think where we see is kind of the bread and butter of the Lennox market is really on the single family attached.
So by single family attached, you're talking 4-plexes, 8-plexes, or duplexes?
Duplexes, townhomes, I don't know if there's a maximum, I know there's probably height requirements.
Yeah, the height requirements are the same for single family as they are for multifamily. So whether it's a single family home or a larger apartment complex, which is a permitted use in this zone, you know, the height limit is still 45 feet, if I recall correctly.
That sounds about right.
I'll make the motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 650.
Second. Do we need another public input on this?
Correct.
Yes.
Any other public input?
So is there any other public input on this ordinance and this motion? All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
And motion does carry. Next item on the public hearing is the temporary malt beverage license from the Lennox Commercial Club.
Mayor and Council, this is the annual application for a temporary alcohol permit for the commercial club for their street dance on July 3. Just a couple of items on this. I don't see any issue with the license itself. We do not have a signature on the application, and we still are waiting on a signed insurance certificate. We usually don't get that insurance certificate until within 30 days of the event itself, so I would expect that to be sometime in the next week or two. But I don't want to send that into the state until we do have all those things. Right. So outside of that, I would recommend motion to approve.
Motion to approve pending signatures and insurance.
Second.
All right, and is there any public input on this? All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the malt beverage license for the Lennox Commercial Club. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And motion carries. And And now declare the public hearings are closed at 7:13 PM. Next item is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second, any discussion?
Mayor and Council, just a couple of notes from my end. You've noted in here a couple of additional items. A tax abatement application from Lincoln County, an HR audit report that we received from Alternative HR, so something for your reading when you get a chance. We'll be working on those items over the next several months. Same with Geotech, an agreement there. 2 patrol officers, 1 full-time and 1 part-time. And then 2 special event permits. Same thing with the commercial club. That'll be pending. We won't approve that. We won't sign the permit until we receive that insurance certificate. And then for the Lions Club, we received their application for the firecracker fun run on the morning of July 4. We have a pending application for a volleyball tournament as well. Got the application for that, but I noticed an issue on it this afternoon, so I just want to hold off on that till the next meeting.
So what, I know we agreed to put like seasonal employee hires in the consent agenda. Is the plan to put just non-department leads? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Correct, everybody but department heads.
Okay.
Yep.
Congratulations, Brian Lathrop, on completion of your public week management program.
Thank you.
That's awesome. How was the event?
The event itself was good. Waking up at 7 a.m. on a Sunday to do the class was not ideal. Got it done.
Yeah. That's a tough ask. Kyle, with the inflow rates that we're seeing after the recent rainfall, that obviously tells us we're still taking on a lot of water into our system.
Yeah, as you all are aware that, the past month has been pretty wet. So we did see an increase about 7 times our normal wastewater flow. It's just kind of an indicator that, we're still chasing that I&I, in a good way that we're kind of capturing these issues that are significant. Is when we televised 2 years ago, we did a full televising of the entire sanitary sewer system, and to help us stop one, myself, we came up with a sewers deficiency map that I think you may have all seen at one point. So it's just kind of honing in on those really, discrepant areas that are cracked and failed. So
Yeah.
keep going on that. Spot repairs yearly that we've been doing the last 3 years are helping.
And a smoke test on Oriole Ave.
We're gonna give it a try, yep. I'm
Very
excited.
interesting.
Yes, me too, absolutely.
I don't know the last time we smoke tested. I bet it's
I
been
think-
7
I
years.
think 2018, there was some.
That was probably in preparation for Central Basin 2 and 3, I would imagine.
Yeah, the technologies of smoke testing are a lot more advanced than back in the day when they would literally just throw a smoke ball in there. It's actually a machine that's got, a solution in a fan, so it's pretty advanced.
Nice. It'd be something to see.
Absolutely.
With the work being done in June on the North Tower, is that part of our contract with McGuire?
It is, yep,
Great.
and so that expenses there is all covered based on our contract fee, which.
Contract pretty much paid for itself in less than a year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
And interior coating is probably roughly, $300,000, $400,000 potentially, so, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good deal. Thanks, Kyle.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Brian, how's the new street sweeper treating you?
It works incredibly well. It's very efficient. We really enjoy it.
Anything we need to do differently with maintenance on something like that?
I think just getting a full training from the staff at Sanitation Products probably helped us more than even in the past. The new one that we have is so much more technologically advanced that we could set up the whole system so you just have to push a button and it drops it down to exactly where you want it. You don't have to adjust 15 different things, so.
Nice.
All of the lubrication system is automated. It's got self-cleaners on it, so basically when you're done, make sure you wash it off real good, and it should, you only have to check on a couple things, but I think it's gonna be one of the better assets that we have, because I think the only thing we're gonna have to worry about is, besides the annual maintenance, the crew that we have now being able to go over everything. As soon as they're done using it, well, before they go over everything, just give it a once over, and then having the post trip. So the pre and post trip that we do now is far and away better than we ever have in the past. So I think at least having that documentation when something does go wrong, we can pinpoint exactly what it is. And we've already had a couple of minor things that we thought were going to be more major, and they were just simple fixes. But having a crew of guys that know what they're looking for is incredibly helpful.
No doubt.
So.
Thank you. Looks like our library usage is trending upward. That's exciting to see.
I've been gone for the last week, but my staff
Maybe that
is...
explains.
Right. Thanks, Bill. The first 2 days the first 3 days before I left, though, we had a tremendous amount of traffic. We've got that passport going on with the summer reading program that we kicked off. We ran out of passports sometime between Thursday and Saturday morning when Danny came in. So we had another shipment, by my emails, looked like it was delivered this afternoon, so they should be ready to roll for tomorrow. Tomorrow we have our first event kickoff, so numbers have been, it's been busy.
Awesome.
It's-
And that comment was in jest.
I know. I know.
I'll pump some for you.
Thank you. No, it's been a good kickoff for the summer.
Your efforts and your team's efforts are noticed and appreciated. The library is the foundation of the community, and what you guys do to make it as relevant as it is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We've noticed a lot of people stop by here already with those passports the past week, and I was at the police department this afternoon, and a couple kids stopped by there as well, so it's obviously being used quite a bit. Great idea.
Will, congratulations on your new hires. That's exciting to see us getting closer to full staff.
Yes.
How far away are we on part-timers at this point?
Currently, this will make our third part-time hire, so we'll have a total of 3. Ideally, in a department of our size, if we can keep 2, we're doing really well. The fact that we're bringing on a third one, and openly he applied for a full-time position, and ultimately he settled for the part-time position, and was very happy with that. So that tells me we're doing something good, keeping that, that attitude alive with our guys, and getting that word spread out that this is the place to work. And I think if we could get a couple more part-time people, that would be very helpful, help fill some of these slots. But without, it's tough to keep part-timers with their hours when we're running, a smaller agency. But we're doing some things.
Yeah. Culture starts at the top. Nice
Absolutely.
work.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any other discussion for the consent agenda motion?
One more thing, on the security for the street dance,
Yes.
we've had some past concerns and it has gotten better. Do we know they're contracted with the same group of folks, or is that a moving target?
It's the same group of folks. I want to say, see if I have it here in front of me. Same security, they will have 6 officers this year. Will and I talked a little bit about that. It has gotten better. I think every year there are improvements that can be made. And sometimes it's how aggressive interactions are, sometimes it's how relaxed the atmosphere is, and maybe looking past some issues. And I think as long as we keep having that discussion, we're comfortable with them.
Well, entertainment choice plays a role in how a crowd behaves.
It does, yes. I would imagine the crowd control is different at a Megadeth concert than it is at a Garth Brooks concert. So.
You're probably right.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and this will be a roll call vote, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and do that. Swear,
Aye.
Bowers.
Aye.
Van Drill,
Aye.
Doherty,
Aye.
and Welch.
Aye.
And motion does carry. And the consent agenda is approved. On to the next item of business is old business, Westport Avenue. This is just an update, no motion needed at this time. Nate, do you have more information?
Correct,
to
it's
share?
just an update. Mayor and council, this issue was presented to you at the May 13 regular meeting with property owners requesting a variety of actions be taken with the existing right-of-way. Initially, the property owners had asked the city vacate the right-of-way, but Mr. Nelson had asked that the street be constructed, either paved or unpaved. I won't go through the whole process here, but given the size of the right-of-way and our standards, constructing a street here is simply not possible with our design standards. It would only leave room for one-way traffic, and the fire lane, the required fire lane, no room for parallel parking or even two-lane travel, so. No property is landlocked in that area, despite what was mentioned at the last meeting. Street access is available to every property that was discussed. So, in short, it's not, the street is not only not required, it's simply not allowable under our standards. So that leaves us at the original discussion of vacating or making some other use of the property. City engineer proposed a buffer zone in keeping with the comprehensive plan. It would include some drainage work and looping of water to Cedar Street. I did request a cost estimate for that buffer zone. I did receive a few messages from Mr. Poppins last week that indicated no further interest in pursuing the vacation, but I think for the time being, we'll just keep moving and proceed with the work so that a decision can be made one way or another. We did have Stockwell out there, I believe last week, to stake the edges of the property, so that's been done. I think the neighbors have mowed this at least once, possibly twice since our last meeting, so I know our crew was out there Friday or looked today and had already been mowed again, so we're planning on mowing on Wednesday and we'll continue to do so weekly.
Good deal. Thanks for the update.
All right. Any further discussion on this?
We got a couple. neighbors.
City Council, may I speak on that, please? On Westport, yeah.
Yep, no, Mark, step on up.
Mark Lewis, 213 North Cedar, part of that Westport deal. First thing I'd like to notice, I read that memo before coming down tonight. That memo needs to be stricken from the record. It is false information. Mr. Poppins and I did not message Mr. Van Ploss and say that this subject was dead. We still want to press forward with the vacation of that property. I did some numbers real quick. My question to the council is why would the city keep that property and not turn over to us and gain money from property taxes? My property is 160 foot long on that side by this 33-foot distance. I pay roughly, it'd be around like $420 to $50 a square foot, just read numbers, $50 a square foot. So 160 times 33, whatever those numbers would be. You know, I don't know why that was ever put in that memo. That wasn't my call. I still want to keep the conversation open as to whether we vacate. I'm fully 100% working with the city if we want to put a permanent easement on that property for lower level drainage, sewer, and dig down, put the drainage in, build it back up. I still like to have the property in my name, in my property, add it to my listing, pay the property taxes on it, to have that area for me and my family to utilize at all times. But I just want to bring it to your attention. Yes, Mr. Poppins, was a huge discussion last month, and there's some things that I want to say, but from my standpoint, as a homeowner, I still want that property, and that memo gives false information, should be stricken from the record and changed. That was never brought to anybody's attention. And I did talk to the contractor, and he was under the intention out there that we had some property and some property lines, some fences that were maybe over our property lines, not out there for other information, so. Please keep that in mind, that I'd rather have the information, or I'd rather have the property in my name. I'd rather pay the property tax on it and get the money out there for the city to use, rather than the city just costing them money to upkeep it, so, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mark. Any other discussion on this matter?
That's a contradiction, of course, to what was communicated.
I'll gladly share the text messages with the council.
Very good.
Sorry, I kinda cut you off there. But
I'm assuming the text message was from me, Nate, I said, I'll just keep mowing it because you guys haven't mowed it, that's all I said. I didn't say anything about that, I didn't wanna continue to vacate, I guess, but. And I'm fine with, if you guys are gonna just leave it city property, that's fine also, but I don't understand this bike trail that Mitch wanted to put into me, that sounds like a waste of money, but.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I would hope it wouldn't, I wouldn't want that too. But if we're gonna leave it be, I don't want the city to spend a bunch of money on Stockwell's, keep surveying it and doing this and just paying Stockwell's a huge amount of money for nothing. If it's just gonna be left there for a buffer, that's fine. If the city mows it, great, if they don't, I'll mow it, because I don't want it to look unkept. So I got no issues with that. But as far as me saying that I still wouldn't want to vacate it, I couldn't say that, I guess. I obviously, according to Mitch Stockwell, it'll never happen, because he recommends to the city they want to keep it as drainage, and if he's, so that's fine. The drainage they did put in, I will say helped tremendously.
good deal.
That little open base deal they did right there, I didn't think it would do as much as it did, but it is, there's no water standing there anymore when it rains.
Nice.
If it does, it's gone in 6-8 hours. So that little basin they did put in helped, I will say that.
That's good.
Well, do me a favor, don't mow tonight. If we plan on mowing on
I did
Wednesday,
I just mowed on Monday.
yesterday.
So, yeah.
So when they show up tomorrow to mow, they're gonna say
It's
they
just been mowed.
mowed
But I
it.
mean, I'd like my stuff kept up nice, I'm sorry, but it.
No, don't
It's
apologize. We all
Sorry.
love nice
But I
things.
just don't wanna get a ticket for trespassing if I mow the city property. But I will also assume you guys are only gonna mow the city part, not the railroad part, and I always mow the railroad part too, so it looks nice. So, just for clarification for that, I'm not trying to be that guy, but
Fair enough.
it is what it is. Appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right. Next item, new business. We have Security State Bank proposal. And do we have a motion to name Security State Bank as our official depository?
We get some info first.
Mayor and Council, Security State Bank has proposed moving all of our bank accounts to their bank. Some of you will recall that consistent banking with a locally owned bank has been a struggle for us. We moved all of our accounts we moved first our checking account at First Interstate a few years ago, then moved all of our investments reserves to a CD account at First Interstate as well. So now all city bank accounts are held at First Interstate. Security State Bank is planning to build a new location here along Highway 44, which means we'll once again have a local bank at which to conduct some business. Representatives from Security are on hand tonight to answer some questions regarding their proposal. That is in your packet, and I believe they also handed out some additional information here. Highlights for us include continued sweeps on our accounts to maximize our interest-bearing balances, no account fees, and several free depository services that are usually charged a fee. Until a permanent location is established here, Security is offered to make daily trips to collect deposits as well as provide additional change for concessions in the pool. If approved, it's our intent to move as much as possible over to Security. We may maintain some balances at First Interstate, but we haven't determined really what that would be. So we'd recommend a motion to name Security State Bank as one of our depositories for the city of Lennox.
So they approached us with this proposal, we didn't approach them.
Correct.
What's our current CD rate?
Is it 4?
I think it's 5.25.
I was gonna say, I know I just opened one personally for like 4.75,
Yeah.
and
I know it was
what
over.
they're showing here is a lot lower than that.
Our most recent was in December, I believe.
And it was for 7 months. It wasn't, so it was a short term, so.
Do they have any idea when they'll even break ground on the Lennox location?
Bids were just received on the 23rd of May. Bids were just received on the 23rd of May. We're set to review bids on the 30th, and we're expecting to break ground on or about the 17th of June. The plan is to bring in a temporary unit before the end of summer and begin operations out of that temporary unit.
Expected completion of our project is June or July of 2025.
So a temporary unit that you would actually do banking business out of?
Yes, sir.
Like
It's a modular building that we've rented out of Texas.
And that's gonna be at your current location?
Yes, yes, that is the current plan.
and that'll be later this year or next year before the new building?
The final product,
No, the temporary.
before August of 2024. Yeah, before this coming school year.
But yeah, we have stuff set in place so that Denise can remote scan, so that she's able to just do deposits remotely. Anything cash, we have plenty of staff to come run from Chancellor over to grab that. So we have several other location or businesses in the area that we're doing that for as well. So we've set that up already to make sure that that's always accessible for them.
What kind of liability does that put you in though, to be transporting cash from, with your staff?
Yep, we have insurance and we have locked bags that we will bring and transport that Denise will have the key for. And then there's a dual control key that's at the location, that's only accessible by 2 employees. So once it gets back to the location, then 2 employees will open that bag and then verify those funds.
Do we have any kind of analysis of current state versus future state as far as total, interest revenue or any of that? Or even like costs of what we're doing today versus the future state? Like what's our total situation delta? Do we know?
Well,
For a cost comparison.
Yeah.
Cost and.
they are offering,
comparison.
yeah, they're offering to basically do the same thing that First Interstate is doing is with the sweep account. And the 2.78 is a competitive rate.
Yes.
That's the same rate.
Yep.
Um,
And
all the services for free, which that I believe was like
That's a
400 and some dollars
Yeah,
per
that's a
month,
benefit.
correct?
That was with Great Western, but
Oh,
right now, we currently have about $60 to $75 in fees that we pay for ACH fees, and then also for the sweep, they charge us, I think it's $30 or $40 a month for the sweep. But I just want to mention that last month, I waited until the 4th or the 5th of the month to get my online statement.
yeah.
This one, they're saying that it's going to be on the first day
It'll be on-
of
it'll be on
the
first
month.
day, yeah.
That is a big
Yeah.
bonus right there. Because especially when our council meetings are the second Monday and the first lands on the
Yeah.
first Monday, I have to try to get that bank rec done along with all the rest of the stuff that needs to be ready for the council meeting.
It's been 2 days.
And our IT guy is going to be here and training
Right.
the new person. He'll, any moment that she needs help, he's right there. Whereas that's the hard part with First Interstate is that you have to wait 2 or 3 days to get help
And then
with
they don't
things.
give you help. I mean,
Yes,
I
yeah.
asked why it was taking so
Yeah.
long. It's an online,
Yeah,
and nobody could give me an answer. I went to the branch and asked them if I could have a copy of the
yeah.
statement. They couldn't get me
And
an
it's
answer.
not, it wouldn't even be available. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So,
They're also offering free checks,
yeah,
which is a big
yeah.
And then
savings.
I want to comment, you had made a point on, you opened a CD for 4.75%. We are offering a 6-month CD at 5.18% or 5.25 APY. And then we're also offering a 12-month product at 4.82 or 4.88. So we're highly competitive in that market as well.
And I know Denise touched on how imperative that sweep was to where when the account got to a certain balance, it would transfer over to that money market.
Yes.
And that's a service that we're offering for free,
Right.
whereas I believe First Interstate charged for that.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the bank franchise tax amount that you get from from the different banks in town.
We won't know from individual banks, the state
Right.
doesn't release that information unless you have a certain, you know, they can break it down to areas, but they won't release it on an individualized basis. They can give you the total.
But year to year, I mean, what's an
It's
average?
about, is it about 10,000? Maybe it's a little more.
See what last year's looked like.
That's what I was thinking, it was somewhere around 10. I mean, how would that work with these guys opening up this fall?
25 is what we got, just under 25 is what we pulled in last year. We've been franchise tax.
That was more than what I was thinking. I thought
So would that be affected if they have a temporary building or if they're not in their full-fledged?
I think as long as you've got a physical location in the county, you need to pay that franchise tax in that
But is
jurisdiction.
that based on the amount of business, or?
I don't know.
'Cause I think
I think
It
it's
has to do
deposits,
with
isn't it?
insurance and it has to do with banking and there's a lot of, things that make up that amount. I mean, they call it bank tax, but there's more to it than just banking.
Right.
Banking, insurance, investment fees.
Do we think the timing of this would affect that?
I think it would. I mean, I don't disagree that it looks like you guys have a good product here and would be competitive, and there's probably some savings on the banking side of things, but with that being said, with that, I mean, that's a substantial amount of money that we wouldn't see
Well,
if
but
we,
when what percentage of ours it would go towards that?
I mean, do you know how much?
In terms of the percentage of our deposits that would contribute to that bank franchise tax? That'd probably be
Pretty
minimal.
negligible?
Yeah, probably a blip on the radar.
That's kind of, that's the savings on just the monthly fees would probably dwarf it.
Previously, we were Valley Exchange and we left before they became American, correct?
Correct.
Is there any merit in asking or putting out an RFP to see if American would be interested or competitive in any way?
I know when we looked at the CD rate before we renewed over here, I called them to see if, and I also called, I think, I don't know if it was security or not, but, I did call about 3 or 4 different banks in the area. But, they were not, I asked what competitive rate they would give us and it was less than what First Interstate was. And I said, will you match it? And they said no.
The main reason we had moved away from Valley Exchange at the time, and I don't know if, I assume American Bank and Trust is doing online banking now, but it wasn't an option at that
Right.
point.
Yep.
And we have all the same online services as First Interstate, so you can run payroll, you can do ACH, all of those items. And again, our IT person is right there. So that's a really big competitive edge in my mind because that helps the finance person so much. Like when you're doing payroll at the end of the month and you can't get a hold of someone, so.
Right, and most of the time, I haven't figured out
Yeah.
who my rep is yet
Yeah.
with First Interstate.
So Denise, in your opinion, what would be the timing of this? Like, when does our CD expire? Like, how do we?
It's coming up the end of June. So that's
So
why
that'd be
we're
the
kind
earliest
of,
we could do it, or?
well, so, I mean, here's a thought, if you don't wanna leave First Interstate completely, you know, if they're competitive with a CD rate, keep the CD at First Interstate, move the checking sweep and the money market and the sweep to security. That way then if you wanna keep, you know,
What does that benefit us other than having multiple?
just that's it.
So
Yeah,
we'd be
multiple
saving
things.
on fees on the checking account essentially by moving the
We
checking.
would be, yes,
And
yes,
getting a higher interest rate on the CD.
you guys do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we usually will verify, you know, so we usually go out and ask like 3 or 4 different banks
Yeah.
what their CD rate is, you know, to see if we can get a higher rate.
Is your proposal contingent on getting it all?
No. I think, we would probably want the main operational account.
to start, and then we can look at the money markets or the CDs.
Or I mean, just have, so we have the ability to shop it every time it expires, and we can make sure we're getting the best rate.
Right,
And,
absolutely.
and that's pretty common.
And it's a shorter term, so.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, even if it does come due in June, then that could be something that, you know, we can revisit in June and discuss too.
I may be the only one here who doesn't know you guys, but I'm Bill Doherty. Who am I visiting with?
Nicole Herman.
Kyle Keating or right on.
I was at First Interstate Bank, so that's why I know
Right.
the benefit of coming over, so.
So are you
because
guys
I did too.
both based out of Chancellor now, or Sioux Falls, or?
Yeah.
She's in Chancellor, I'm in
Yeah.
Sioux Falls temporarily, until we have
But we'll be in
Lennox.
Lennox, yeah.
And then I'll be officing in Lennox.
And obviously that's as soon as we can get there, plan. Yeah.
And then one other item that's not talked about in this proposal is the secured public funds. So FDIC insurance is up to $250,000. We ensure that your public funds are secured, whether that's through letters of credit or pledged security bonds. We offer that service at no charge to the city as well. I'm not certain if FIB charges or AT&T charges for those services, but
I do have one.
I don't know.
We're real excited to have you guys coming in, for sure.
we're excited.
We're excited, yes, yeah,
Great location, by the way.
yeah.
Thank you. It's gonna be a beautiful building.
It'll, yes.
Awesome.
So could we, maybe have an RFP put out to kind of get some comparisons? I mean, there's nothing saying that other banks won't match, what they're putting out. I think it's fair to the banks that are already here to give them a shot. Yeah, I guess I think that'd be the route to go, just to put some feelers out there and before we make a decision on this.
Is there any benefit to getting this moving while we still have Denise on board?
That would be my only thing, is
Yeah.
that,
I've done it once.
yeah, I know.
I can do it again.
Yeah, it's not an
It's
impossible
not an
process.
easy, yeah, it isn't, but, I think that Nicole was a great help when we were doing it, and got on board with Great Western at the time, went to First Interstate. And I think this might be even easier. I mean, they actually were looking at our statements and trying to figure out what, accounts come out, or, so it's not an easy undertaking, but,
Right.
I'm just saying, bringing a new finance person in, let's not make her life difficult right off the bat.
right,
Right, I agree.
make mine, cause I'm leaving.
Well, we can time that transition too, it doesn't have to be in June or
Right.
July, if we're more comfortable
Right.
later in the year, then we do it later in the year. So I guess we would need, is the RFP route what
Do you need a
majority of
motion for
council
that?
wants to? I think just direction and,
I think it would be best served to get more information, so we,
Make an
it's
informed
a,
decision.
big decision.
okay. We will get working on an RFP and get that issued. We'll have it on a future council agenda, hopefully June 10th.
Great.
We'll say, impressed you guys came in. I'm
Yeah.
glad you guys did.
No doubt.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. We appreciate your interest in this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right. Next item is the committee appointments. So this is tabled last meeting, so we just need a motion to take from the table the committee appointments, and then we can lay that out there before you do. So we have a motion for that? Is that a gavel or?
Sorry. Water.
Just a motion to take the committee appointments off the
Click,
table.
click to place it upon the table.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries, and the committee appointments, and I'll just read this out, is that the best way to do this, or?
Yeah.
Okay, I gave Denise it
Yeah, I
as
got
well.
a copy.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you don't have to try to
Yeah,
write.
I
So,
stopped him right away.
Each person will represent, or each council person will be on a certain, chair a committee. So starting with the streets, water and sewer, chair is Chad Swear, Sam Bowers will be on that, and Lauren Van Drill. For the zoning and planning, chair will be Billy Welch, Chad Swear will be on that, and Sam Bowers. Police, fire, and ambulance committee, the chair will be Sam Bowers, Lauren Van Drill will be on that, and Billy Welch. Parks, recreation, and pool, that will be chaired by Brittany and Mauer. Billy Welch will be on that, and Bill Doherty. Finance, economic development, that'll be chaired by Bill Doherty. Brittany Mauer will be on that committee, as well as Chad Swear. And then the library, solid waste weeds, will be chaired by Lauren Van Drill, and Bill Doherty and Brittany Mauer will be on that committee as well. So I think that's everyone there. If you need me to email that out, if you lose that later, let me know.
It will be in the minutes, and we can
Yeah.
always print it off for everybody as well, so.
Good deal.
All right, that's the committee appointments. The planning and commission appointment. We have one vacant spot on this committee since Lauren was on that. And so, I don't have a name for this person at all, but I just want to make a recommendation, that if people are on the city council or on our current planning or zoning committee, would reach out to people that would be a good fit. We'd like to have them apply. I talked to Nate about some sort of an application, and it doesn't need to be as extensive as what we had, but, just to kind of have a little bit of a vetting system. So that's something you can post.
Yeah, it should be ready tomorrow.
Okay.
We've got the draft mocked up for the fillable form. It's very similar to the city council vacancy one.
Okay.
But changed a few things on it, so.
And then we'll have a vetting process. Not quite sure exactly what that looks like. Just trying to be useful of everyone's time and such too. But then ideally we will have a candidate that would be a good fit, and that way I can make that recommendation on our next meeting, which is June 10th. So that's the status of that. Any questions, discussions?
Mayor, in terms of when would you like applications received by?
I would like 12 o'clock on that on June 10th.
And I believe during the application process for mayor and council, two applicants were encouraged to apply for other positions. Would you prefer that we send those out to those applicants, or would council members want to reach out to them individually?
You could just send them.
Everybody
That'd
good?
be fine.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Do we need a motion to approve this process at all?
No.
No, okay. And that's it for that. Personnel?
Mayor, there was one item that was emailed to me this weekend, and I neglected to add it at the beginning of the meeting, fireworks discussions. Laura Madrigal had asked about that, so I just recommend for discussion now, we can go through that and get some guidance for the next meeting. If everyone agrees.
Sure.
Yeah, let's go.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to
It's okay.
motion to add it at the beginning, that's why I kind of looked at you.
Yeah, if you ever have something like that, just get another council member, so you kind of need two to get it on the agenda.
I had emailed Mayor, so.
You want to have some discussion with regards to that, Lauren? You
Yeah,
wanna share?
I'll open,
Okay.
I brought this to Mayor, Fergan because I remember last year we had a citizen come shortly after the 4th and mentioned that he felt we needed to look at our ordinance, based on surrounding communities allowing fireworks, we are still a smaller community. We have a 4th of July celebration here, so I feel that it's reasonable to consider this. We have, Chief Erickson here today to kind of provide us some input if we're curious about, the ordinance as it stands and how it's enforced and, the history behind that. He kind of has a little bit more background on that, but I just wanted to bring it up. I know I pulled some ordinances from, I believe, Parker, was Harrisburg in there?
I've never seen Parker and T, and I do have those here.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a couple surrounding communities. They just put like time frames on the dates. So I think it was like the 29th through the 5th. So the 29th of June through the 5th of July. Between this time and this time, it was okay. Some of them also had some like, you have to clean up your stuff. You can't do it in the middle of the street. So again, I kind of lean on Chief Erickson to let us know the history behind why the ordinance is the way it is maybe, and we can discuss that.
So that ordinance was actually put in place prior to me actually joining the police department, but I've been around long enough and dealt with it long enough to kind of get the feel of why we do what we do with that. I've had many discussions with the fire department on this particular topic, and dry years and dry, roofs catching on fire. Since I've been here, I have yet to go to any fires that were deemed firework related, but we also have banned fireworks within the city limits. So Nate and I have had a pretty good discussion about this afternoon. I also went through most of the surrounding community city ordinances that evolve around this. And as I expressed earlier, times change, things change, people change. Do I care one way or the other if we have fireworks? I'm on the fence personally. I love shooting them off, don't get me wrong, I love watching them. But as far as chasing the people that shoot them, I don't particularly like chasing people around that shoot fireworks. We have a lot going on during that time. And our resources are well spent on Main Street or at a street dance or, not busting into somebody's backyard with Roman candles. So, as far as with our city ordinance and how we've operated onto it is, typically we will find the people that are shooting them. It's not hard in Lennox. And we will ask them not to, give them a couple warnings usually, and then we start writing citations. With our citations, they've been pretty low. It's like a $25 fine if I remember correctly.
It's not much.
So it's not really much of a deterrent. In fact, when you spend $400 on the fireworks, yeah, they'll spend $100 before they're gonna stop. So, by then we're a busy police department. So like I said, Nate and I had a pretty healthy discussion about this. We feel that some of the verbiage in there, pulling a couple of the different ordinances and kind of coming up with our own, he does that a lot better than I do. We feel that we can come up with a draft, something that's what you guys were looking for, but we don't have anything currently right now.
Yeah, we talked with Brad a little bit this afternoon as well, this morning I guess I should say, about making something happen. No real concerns there. I did just chat briefly by text message with Chief Fudness, the fire department. They would still prefer to keep it the same. So certainly something to keep in mind, and I can make sure that that's incorporated into a memo for whenever this ordinance is up for first reading. But I think we could easily get this put together by the June 10 meeting.
Do the other communities have verbiage discussing dry conditions?
Yes, several of them actually put it in there that it is up to the city council that they have the ability to revoke the right to shoot off during the dry conditions. But there's also one city was really good about listing off that they'll actually use the scale that the state uses for the dry conditions. And if that deems that necessary, then they will revoke for that season.
Puts the trigger on an actual agency that has some kind of expertise.
Yeah, absolutely. And then would that need to be voted on or immediately enact?
Most of them do a suspension by resolution. So we would look at the drought conditions, maybe the meeting before the July 4 holiday.
June 24th.
Right.
So we're still a couple weeks away.
Yes. I don't anticipate, I don't think we're going to have a dry condition concern this year. But get first and second reading done before the 4th of July. It wouldn't be technically in effect by the 4th of July holiday, but we can certainly choose to act as though it is until the publication period is over, so.
It would give good guidance on how to operate.
It would.
Right, we don't need this to be ambiguous, it has to be well defined.
Right.
Does the other ordinance specify what's allowed, what's not allowed?
Yeah, you went through more of them than I did.
There were some that were very well written, very well defined, and, you know, Nate and I found a couple that were very vague, and we discussed it again in a conversation with Brett. We want to make sure there are very clear defined things that everybody can understand. And there's a few of them that I read that were very well defined on consumer fireworks.
Right.
So if you can buy it at one of those shops, you can shoot it off in town.
There was one that referenced everything, you can discharge fireworks except aerial fireworks, but then it doesn't go on to define what an aerial firework is. T says consumer fireworks, but it doesn't necessarily use the state definition for consumer fireworks. So, you know, in our line of work, and especially Will's, if we're going to enforce something, we need to have very clear definitions on what it all is, or there's no hope for us even writing a citation.
I'm very stickler about that. If the layman cannot understand it, we should not have it in our city ordinances, because those are the people that are gonna be reading them and interpreting them. People like, you know, myself that have spent years digging through state statutes, case law, I understand a little bit more because of my experience. I want to make sure it's very well written to where everybody can understand and everybody is under the understanding that this is what we deem as acceptable for the city. And that way there's no confusion when I show up.
What's our liability? You spoke with the city attorney.
We didn't speak about any liability risk, so to speak, but, you know, if this is being done only on private property.
Right, lands the neighbors on blown out eaves that are full of dry leaves, catches fire, starts melting siding, hurts shingles, they get it put out, but now the guy's got thousands of dollars of repairs. Would he come back to the city and say, you let this happen, it's in your ordinance to allow this?
Yeah, they could, but I think it's unlikely that anybody would take that step with any serious regard.
That's what I'm wondering, is like, I like shooting off fireworks, my kids do, but I can see the point of view of some of our residents that don't wanna do that, and their neighbors shooting them off, and they're landing on the roof and things like that. Like, how do we prevent, or how do we protect those people?
We actually were discussing that too, as far as, you know, with the specifics of cleaning up after yourself. How do you go find the bottle rocket stick?
Right.
You don't. And, you
I mow
know,
it.
when exactly. Your neighbor comes over and, you know, after you've shot off 30 of them bottle rockets and just telling you about how you're pelting his house. How we're gonna handle those situations. It's not easy, it really isn't. And I can tell you several areas of this town that are completely canopied in trees. So even if you've got, you know, that small 10 by 20 window that you could probably shoot something out of, somebody's going to. It's gonna happen. Because they could see blue sky when they shot it. Now their tree is on fire and I'm there wondering why. So, I mean, there's an ups and downs to it. And like I expressed earlier, I encourage this conversation because obviously this is going to get the public talking about it. You know, and I really would love to hear direction from the public as well as from you guys on where we should proceed forward.
No doubt.
That was gonna be my next question. I mean, is there a huge interest that we've been seeing over the last few years for?
I'm approached.
A lot of people shoot them up.
I'm approached regularly about why, you know, a lot of new citizens to Lennox that move in that are shooting them off when I do stuff. They're like, well, why is that not allowed? You know, in Centerville we could do it, in Parker we could do it. Yeah, Lennox we can. So I have had interest from the general public, and with a lot of the patriots that just plain like to shoot the fireworks off. But I've also seen them understand the fact that we don't allow it. And they respect that, and they respect their neighbors, and they just don't do it. So I can't say with 100% that, yeah, there's a huge community support for this. It's kind of like everything else. There's this band would really like this to happen, but I'll bet there's this band that really just does not want it.
That's kind of what I'm.
They're the small pet owners or the new babies, and that's valid.
Is there any merit to providing a space where they can go
probably more liability.
There's a lot of-
Right?
That's where the liability is.
Yeah.
That's when you lose an eye or a finger and we're paying for somebody for the rest of our lives.
How about putting a, like a survey or something?
There's nothing that says we have to rush into this. I know there's something on the calendar coming up pretty soon. But it doesn't have to be in 2024. Having the discussion, properly laying it out is a heck of a lot better than rushing into something and not considering all sides.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. Makes my job a lot easier.
You got that right.
Are we calling on a survey then, or?
I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
And once again, encourage all residents to download the City of Lennox app and turn on your notifications or allow notifications. Get timely, great information through the app. Notifications about surveys and fireworks would be coming through the app. So download it, turn on notifications, you'll stay in the know.
All right, thank you for that. Personnel, there's nothing, and other than that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And meeting is adjourned.
All right, have a good night, guys, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Before we turn it.
Oh, no.